After reading your feedback from the midterm course evaluation, one of the best suggestions was to do some videos to explain some of the questions in the quizzes and also in the pop quizzes. So I think this is a great suggestion. This is a great way in which some of your feedback kind of helps me to make the class better. So this is the first attempt at that. I'm going to start with the pop quizzes because they're a little harder. And then, little by little, I'll start working on the quizzes too. So this is pop quiz number 2, which should be more interesting for you because this is the stuff that's going to be more relevant on the exam that's coming, and also in the quiz this week. The first question was two-part question. The first one was a numerical question, and the second part is a multiple choice. It's a very simple scenario. There's a business of tutoring business, and you're doing two things. You're basically having two type of costs: a variable cost, which is depending on how many hours you work, and that is the cost, the opportunity cost of working, which is $10 per hour, since that is the money you will be making somewhere else if you didn't have to work. So every hour you work on your business is an hour that you won't be able to work bartending, and then you will lose $10 every hour. And then the other cost is a fixed cost because you sign a contract for 1 year, and in 1 year you have nothing else to do in terms of that, meaning that you cannot get rid of the contract. You have to pay this $20 regardless of what you do, and that's $20 per week. And then the revenue side, you have a market price for about $12. Now the first question said in 1 week how many hours you must work in order to break even, meaning you earn zero economic profits. Okay, so I have here an Excel spreadsheet that shows you kind of what happens in this scenario as you increase the labor units one by one. So the first column here, let's go column by column, is the labor. So you have when you work no hours, when you work 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, and then 10 hours. 10 hours, you'll see that will be the answer to the question, but let's move slowly through this column. The second one is how many output. So an hour of work is an hour tutoring, so it's 1-to-1. 2 hours is 2 hours tutoring. The variable cost is you pay $10 every time you work because that's the amount of money that you won't be able to make bartending. So when you work 1 hour tutoring, you lose 1 hour. You lose 1 hour, $10 that you can make bartending. And you work 2 hours, so you may lose $20. So every time you work 1 more hour, you lose $10 more. The fixed costs are always equal to 20. So 20 here too. Because it's $20 a week. These are weekly costs, right? So if you work 1 hour a week, you earn $10. But you also have to pay the $20 per week. There's nothing you can do, and you have to pay them. See that you pay them even if you don't work anything. You still have to pay them. All right. So when you have output of 0, you still have to pay $20. And then the total revenue is at $12 every time you charge a person, every time you see the person every hour. So when you work 1 hour, you charge $12. When you work 2 hours, it's 2 times 12. 3 hours is 3 times 12, and so forth. Then the total cost is the addition of variable costs and fixed costs. So when you work 1 hour, it's $30. When you work 2 hours, it's $40. So every time increases by 10, which is a change in the variable cost. And then profits is nothing else than the total cost, the total revenue minus the total cost. So when you work 0 hours, you make no revenue, you lose $20. When you work 2 hours, you make $30, you make $12 in revenue, but you have $30 in costs, so you're on the whole for 18. When you work 3 hours, you make $24 of revenue, but you pay $40 in costs, you're in the whole for 16. When you work 3 hours, $36.50. When you work 4 hours, you're $48 in revenue, 60. The revenues keep getting up, right, by 12, and your cost is getting up only by 10. So at some point you will be able to meet those fixed costs and also pay for your variable costs to break even. That's when you have 10 hours, you make $100, $120 in revenue, you pay $100 in labor costs and $20 in fixed costs. So at that point you're breaking even. So the answer to this question shouldn't be 10 because at that point your economic profits is 0. So we go back here and we add 10. That should be the answer to this particular question. The second part of the question was a little more involved, and for this one you can answer in 2 ways. You're looking by the average variable cost, or just looking at the variable cost in general. You have one more assumption, and that is that you can only work 5 hours. And if you're working 5 hours after operating for 1 month, your girlfriend tells you, or your boyfriend if you're a girl, that you should get out of the tutoring business and bartending instead. Probably she's telling you that because you're not making any profits at that point. You see, this is 5 hours right here. And at that point, let me paint it a different color. Let's see. Where's the paint? This one? No. Let's do this one here. I got a gray color right there. At that point, you're not making any profits. You're losing $10. You're having $50 in variable costs and $20 in fixed costs. You're only making $60 in revenue, but you're paying $70 in costs, so you're losing $10. So that's why your girlfriend tells you to get out of the, get out of the business. Now you have 3 choices here. One is as a good advice, since you can make more money bartending. Now let's see if that's true. If you decide to bartend instead, how much money you will lose? Well, you still have to pay the $20, right? And then you will make $50 in total revenue, since you make $10 for every hour you work bartending. So your total cost in that sense will be even more. So you make less revenue, you make only $10, you still have to pay the $20 on fixed costs, even if you bartending, because you already signed a 1-year contract. So it seems to me that bartending actually give you even less revenue, and even more costs. So therefore, I would say that bartending is actually even worse. You can also see that by looking at the labor here. You see, if you actually decide not to work, this is how much you're in the hole. You're in the hole by $20. And every time you decide to work even 1 hour, yes, you're in the hole, you're losing money, but you're losing less money. And that is because the money the hour that you work, you sell it at $12, and the cost for you working is only $10. So after you work 1 hour, you get the $12, you pay yourself $10, and you can use the leftover to pay your fixed costs. When you work 1 hour, you only have $2 left over. You cannot pay the whole fixed costs, which are $20, but you can make them lower than $20. When you work nothing, you're not gonna make this money. You're not gonna make the $12. Yeah, you're not gonna have to pay the $10 cost, but you're also not gonna make the $12. So therefore, you're gonna be $2 worse off. So working seems to be a better option, and implicitly this is the opportunity cost of working. So this table also inherently includes the opportunity cost for working, which is bartending. So if 1 hour is better than not working, then bartending has to be worse than actually selling your tutoring. It takes a little bit to click, but look at the table over and over, and eventually I'm sure you will see it. So that's not the good answer. The second one is actually a bad advice, simply because this is a perfectly competitive industry, and you cannot change the price. This is the market price of tutoring, that's it. So probably the answer should be this one, bad advice, since you could make less money bartending, and that's what we proved before. A second way of doing this was looking at the equations from the textbook. It tells you that that you should continue to operate when the average variable cost is actually less than the price, which is what we have said before, right? You're comparing how much money you're making, $60, how much is the cost of working, and that's $50. So clearly it makes sense to work, even if you're going to lose money overall. But you can also just look at the per unit cost. The per unit variable cost is $10, and that's a cost if you work every hour. But you're making $12 in revenue, so clearly it makes more sense to work. That's the same analysis we have done when we said what happens if you actually work only 1 hour. It's a tricky question, but it's really, really important and very, very useful to understand how powerful these ideas are, even when you have a simple example. Okay, I'm going to break all these questions into different videos, so we'll deal with the second questions in a different video.